We are going to wrap things up with a fantastic panel. It is called A Good Life, What Men Need. So I'm going to bring up our moderator first. He is the founder and CEO of Off the Cuff. He's worked with Spotify, Afropunk, Vox Media, and NBC Universal. And on the heels of the last panel, he is going to be a dad for the first time in May. And when he was little, he wanted to be a baseball player. So please give a warm welcome to Cristian Palma. Woo-woo! Thank you. Our first panelist is the co-founder of B Corp, White Men for Racial Justice, and One. He also wanted to be a baseball player when he was a kid, so I feel like we can start a team between the two of you and some other of the panelists. Please welcome J. Coen Gilbert. Thank you. And if you're over on the side, I just please ask you to keep your voices down. Thank you so much. Okay, our second panelist is an artist and author of The Master Plan. He is a keynote speaker and a sought-after visual artist whose work investigates societal injustices, human relationships, and public policies. And when he was a kid, he wanted to be a Marine. Give it up for Chris Wilson. Thank you. Okay, and our final panelist is the founder of Be Here Tomorrow Media. He's one of the world's leading mental health advocates and suicide prevention storytellers. He's an award-winning filmmaker and best-selling author. And I don't want to rank all of the kids' dreams when they were little, but this one's at the top of my list. He wanted to be a tiger tamer. Please welcome Kevin Hines.
I love that. Well, give it up for the entire panelists one more time. Let's get it. Last panel of the day. How's everybody doing? Yeah, we need the energy all the way up because we're gonna drive it home. You know, so I'm honored and excited to be here to kick off this conversation. And I think the intentionality here is for us to just really dive in a little bit deeper. We looked at the output, we looked at the systems, we looked at the connections, how to build the infrastructure. But sometimes, how many times we look in a mirror to look at the inner work? And I think that's where we want to kind of lean into, right? What it means to have a good life and what men truly, truly need. It wouldn't be like me if we could just get folks in the crowd just to...
Come on over.
Come on over.
Come on over, we need you.
All right. It wouldn't be like us, right? I love that. Thank you, team here. So, you know, we're living in a moment where folks, men particularly, are producing so much, right? Pouring out so much. You know, we talked about the term about being a provider, being a protector, leading many different hats. And I think oftentimes we feel very disconnected, undervalued, not really having those safe spaces to have conversations. So I want to kick it off here in the theme of just having a good life. When you think about having a good life, what does it mean to you? Not a successful one, not one with status, not one with monetary value, right? When you think about a good life, what does it mean to you today and how has it evolved over time?
I guess I can start. Yes, I'm happy to be here today. My name is Chris Wilson. I'm a visual artist. I think for me, it is purpose, living a purposeful life and doing things that matter and finding that right balance of, I think, like, especially as Americans, like we put a high emphasis on just working. We work ourselves to death here. And I like working. But I think we should caution ourselves of not becoming our work, but also like understanding what our purpose is and thinking about what our legacy is and like how do we want to be remembered. And I think finding that balance is the sauce, the recipe of life. And I think we all should strive to try to figure out what that recipe is.
Kevin, I guess, yeah, we'll go with
Yeah, I think that for me, the way I see life being positive is having hope every day, no matter the pain you might be in, and achieving life skill success versus monetary success is my main goal in this existence. I'm sitting here today with all of you lovely people. There's about 80, 85 of us in this room. And even my wife doesn't know this right now. She's in the room. I'm in excruciating physical pain from what I did to myself 25 years ago, leaping off the Golden Gate Bridge. And I'm in excruciating physical pain most days. And I accept that. I'm okay with that. I haven't found a cure to that. But my great life exists not because of the pain I'm in, but because of the hope I see for the beauty that lies in front of me right now. The greatest gift to me in this moment is meeting you and each and every one of you here today. You are my greatest gift today. You came here, you spent your time with all of us, you give me hope. So thank you.
So I think the only thing I'd add to purpose and hope is that implicit in that is it has to be in community. I don't think it's possible to achieve the good life alone, full stop. And so you can have purpose, and if you're pursuing that alone, I think you get halfway up the mountain. I think if you're pursuing purpose and you're doing it with others, you have a shot at the top. And I think if you really want to plant the flag, in my experience, that purpose has to be doing something in service of others. And so that's my holy trinity.
I love that, Jay, and I want to kind of stay with you real quick. Yes, please, phenomenal answers to kick it off. Jay, I want to stay with you really quick, because I think there was a very pivotal moment in your life back in September 2001. And at that point, you start to really second guess what success would look like to you, right? After the 911, your sister was rescued. It was the same month that, unfortunately, your dad passed. And your co-founder, Ann One, passed as well. It was a very pivotal moment in your life where you start to really ask yourself, what's the highest and best use of my life? When you think about that moment within that month, how has this success over time redefined the way you see the world? And what can we all do to really kind of shape that same perspective or think about success in a maybe different way?
Thanks for that. So it wasn't one of the co-founders of AN1, but it was a beloved member of the team, Jean-Bernard Jout, and one of the most joyful human beings I've ever met. If we're lucky to meet like 2 or 3 people like that in your life who bring joy just through their physical presence in a space, you count yourself blessed. And Jean-Bernard was one of them, and he was killed on the side of the Schuylkill coming to work at 5 a.m. While he was parked taking a nap, and somebody hit him from behind. He was murdered, not murdered. He was killed. Within the same 2-week period, 9/11 happened. My sister was covering it for what was then New York One News, and she was pulled out of rubble on Vesey Street by a first responder. And 4 days later, with the smoke still traveling up the West Side Highway, I drove up here with my grandma. To be at my father's bedside at Mount Sinai, where he passed from lung cancer, unrelated to 9/11. And so those three things hit me, obviously, as one would imagine, pretty hard, and forced me to step back and ask, I was doing something super fun, had an awesome purpose, doing it with a bunch of my friends. We were selling, building a basketball company called AN1 that was doing really fun stuff. But was that my highest and best use? And what came out of that reflection was, as fun as it was and as successful as it was not my highest and best use. And that catalyzed what was a 3 or 4 year discernment process on what that could be. It wasn't like a light bulb. I've never had one of those epiphanies. I don't know what that would feel like. I imagine it's pretty cool, but that's not been my experience. More like a slow dimmer switch for me. And what eventually that became was a lesson from my dad, which was, he told me when I was growing up about a couple of decisions that he made as an entrepreneur himself. He was an architect here in the city. He did corporate interiors. And he told me 2 stories between probably when I was 8 and 13. And I think back about how intentional his parenting was. We just came off a panel on dads. And my dad had plenty of faults, but one of them wasn't ambition. One of them wasn't like being intentional about what he was teaching his kids. And so he told me about 2 things. One was he was told once that he said that he got a job redesigning some kind of nightclub or something downtown, probably in this area. And he got the job because his partner offered a kickback to the contractor. And my dad approached his partner and he said, hey, I just heard, I mean, this is crazy, but I just heard this rumor that we got the job because you like slipped a little something under the table. And his partner was like, yeah. He's like, well, like, we don't do that. He goes, well, that's just how business is done. And my dad was like, well, that's not how I want to do business. And his partner said, well, then maybe we shouldn't be in business together. And my dad said, you know, two little kids, you know, trying to provide. And he said, yeah, you're probably right. We shouldn't be in business together. And so my dad left a vibrant, successful partnership to start his own shop, hang up his own shingle. Maybe 10 years later, he told me another story where he was bidding on a big job over in Secaucus to redesign WOR TV stations, like their thing, and there was, or maybe it wasn't WR, it was a different job, but it was the thing out in Jersey, and he's walking around doing the initial meeting, and he's one of the couple finalists, and he stops over at some guy's desk who's head down, like, you know, doing some work. He says, oh, what are you working on? He says, I'm designing, yada yada. I said, what are you designing it for? The guidance system. I'm designing these guidance systems. What are the guidance systems for? He says, well, you know, basically they're for cruise missiles. And my dad had just started work on disarmament issues. This is in like the early 80s, Reagan, you know, Soviet Union, a lot of worry about nuclear war. And my dad walked back into the conference room where the execs were meeting, and they said, Sidney, we're so excited to award you the job. You're amazing, your presentation was fantastic, and we can't wait to award you this job. And he said, I really appreciate it, I'm grateful, but I'm gonna have to respectfully decline. And they said, what are you talking about? We loved your proposal, like we're not gonna change a thing, like your vision, it's gonna come to life, that's what every architect wants. And he said, well, I can't spend my time and my life force making a workspace more productive and a better work environment for people whose product is gonna create mass destruction. That's not what I want to bring my gifts for. And they said something similar to what his partner had said maybe 10 years earlier, which is, I mean, you know it's not gonna stop us from doing the work, like we'll just get some other architect to do it. Right. He said, that's right. You'll get another architect to do it. But there were architects that designed the gas chambers in Dachau. I'm not gonna be that architect. And so my point, I suppose, if I have one, is that my dad's biggest gift to me was telling me you got choice. And you have agency. And so if you want to lead a life with purpose, you have a choice about how you do that, not just what you do. And that has stuck with me. And I think that when he passed, and I was reflecting on what I was doing and making trash talk t-shirts and game shorts and, you know, running mixtapes around the country, it was like, oh, well, I have a choice. And what I want to do is I want to work with other business leaders who have a higher purpose than just maximizing the profits from their company, even if it's profits from a cool basketball, footwear, and apparel company. And so that turned into the B Corp community, the B Corp movement, and that's what I was doing for the next 15, 20 years after that.
Amazing. I really love that, Jay, and thank you. You kicked it off very nicely talking about purpose and actually seeing the person in front of you, right? Chris, for you, I think you have such a phenomenal story as well. You know, at the age of 17, you were sentenced to life in prison. And at that time, for the first time you ever got seen for who you are versus what you could produce was your cellmate seeing your potential.
Yes.
And at that time, that evolved into what we see now, the master plan. What did that moment do for you, and what can it do for men in our community to just be seen for who they are versus what they could produce?
Yeah, I think like for most of my life, I felt invisible. And just for context, I was sentenced to natural life in prison because I was defending my mother who was attacked and raped in front of me. And I had a gun on me and I shot someone and took a person's life. There was no law against self-defense at the time back in the state of Maryland. And when I went away, I was devastated. My first 2 years, just sat in depression. I was on the chess team before I went to prison, and I played the cello. I liked to read books. I was a very interesting, young kid, and I decided I wanted to do something different with my life. And it was at that moment, 2 years into my sentence, I think I was 19 at the time, where I decided to write up what I now call my master plan of how I wanted to educate myself, how I wanted to figure out a way how to, return to society and be a better, productive person. I wanted to write a book. I wanted to be like the Black Forrest Gump or something. There was a whole bunch of stuff I wanted to do. And I wrote this stuff up, and I just worked really hard and spent almost half of my life educating myself. I speak 5 languages. I got college degrees. I did a whole bunch of stuff while I was away. And I came home and completed almost 98% of my master plan. And I will say that I made it this far because there was a handful of people, surprisingly, in prison who saw my potential. And they was like, dude, you don't belong in here. All you do is sit in the corner and read books and study. I was studying Chinese towards the end of my incarceration. And they was like, we're going to protect you. And you got to get out. And you got to do everything that you promised that you would do on your master plan. And so I've been home now 14 years. I'm the founder of a few multi-million-dollar companies. I've helped hundreds of people get jobs and won a presidential award from Obama and done a whole bunch of things and continue to pay it forward. But I think I've made it this far because there were a handful of people that saw my potential, even though at the time I didn't see it myself. And so I try to pay it forward now by identifying people that have that switch, that potential, and I invest in those people to try to make the world a better place.
Absolutely. I love that. Wow. I'm already seeing the energy here shift, right? The intentionality here is in real time, and there's no better moment than being in this moment right now. Kevin, with you, you alluded to your story, which is also very inspiring, and I think one of the things you do very well, Kevin, now is that in some of those pivotal moments, which was probably the hardest moment of you looking on the other side of the bridge, you thought to yourself that no one really cared. You had runners go by you, you had so many people go by you within that moment, but you're like, no one really cared, but in fact, they actually did care. And now that you're on the other side, you're the first one to raise your hand and say, I need help, right? And my question to you is, what's one simple step that men can do to be able to be comfortable enough to raise their hand and say, I need help?
One thing you can do to say, I need help, especially with the plethora of young and older men alike that are considering suicide, there might be someone in this very space that's thinking of taking their life right here, right now. Given the number of people here, that's possible. You can look in the mirror and you can say to yourself these words, and I want you to repeat after me. I need to hear you. I'm going to give you my all. Give me yours. My thoughts, do not have to become my actions. They can simply be my thoughts. if they're dangerous to myself or others. The second and most important thing you need to do in that moment is turn to anyone willing to empathize and say 4 simple but very effective words. I need help now. The difference between me, who attempted in 2000, and who's never attempted again, even though I live with chronic thoughts of suicide that plague me, they'll never take me. I'll never die that way. Someone tells you after today Kevin Hines died by suicide, you open an all-out investigation, it was a murder. The difference between me and people who attempt and die by suicide, I do not stop saying I need help now until one person is willing to answer the call. So you must place yourself in the mindset that I have to save myself. You must be the one to search until you find that person. I don't care if it's a complete stranger, and I'm telling you, I have used it on a complete stranger, and it works. I have been at the Atlanta airport and said to a TSA agent, I need help now. And he was like, what do you mean, buddy? And I was like, I'm suicidal. And he goes, come with me. And they took me in a locked room, and they brought in 3 police officers, 2 more TSA agents. I was like, I'm not a threat to the airport or anybody on a plane. I'm suicidal because I have bipolar disorder and I have these issues. My phone is dead. Can you please call my wife? And they did. And my wife came and got me, and she's here in this room. And she is the reason most of the time, I keep going. Because she is my gift, my rock, and my best friend, and the greatest thing that has ever happened to me on this planet. And I'll say one final thing to wrap my portion up here. I didn't get any sleep last night. I sleep 8 hours a night. If I don't get sleep, the thoughts creep in, and they have. But I'm right here, it's right now, and what I'm going to say to you is, I need help now. And what will all of you say? I got you. Thank you. And I'm going to be here tomorrow and every day after that.
Wow. That's amazing. And I think, it's a true testament that you need the right people around you, the right support, right? I wouldn't be the man I am today if it wasn't for my wife as well. So it's constantly looking in the mirror, and sometimes you need that person to see your blind spots, right? Those moments that really kind of allow you to be the best version of yourself. So my question to the panelists here is how important it is to have that support system in you, and how can we develop a support system that sees us, again, for who we are versus what we do, and how do we kind of put that thread together there to really have people that we can trust to lean in on when we do need it the most?
I'll start. So I think I've been a big advocate of, for my mentees, telling them to create their own personal board of advisors. And I'm kind of crafty with this, right? So I tell them, you trick them. You create a group of 5 people, and I'll speak for myself. I have some folks who I want to have coffee with you once a month, and this might be a person that's we're good at finances. I have another person that's just really wise in personal relationships. I have someone who, I have a lawyer, an accountant, and a handful of people. And I will make an effort to spend time, just learning from these individuals. One of my friends, he's one of the smartest people I've ever met. He made $160 million off of Waze. It's random, side note, but he's so busy, he doesn't take calls, doesn't answer emails, but he likes to go for walks. I'll fly in and walk with, his name's Brad. I'll walk with Brad. And Brad is so smart. I have these problems in my life with business and stuff, and Brad will like synthesize everything that I'm going through and say, you know what, Chris, like if I was you, like I would do this and I would do this. And actually I'm gonna connect you. I'm gonna send an email, I'm gonna do this stuff for you or whatever. And I see Brad maybe 4 times a year. I love Brad. And I have other people that's like that. And it's like, you know, I went to prison when I was 17. I came home when I was 32. What do I know about personal relationships? So I'll meet up with folks who just been there, they done that. And like, I don't know what I'm doing. And they're just like, you know what, Chris? If I was you, you know, I would take things slow. I would do this stuff. But I have like 5 people. This is my personal board of advisors. I have 5 people like this that's in my life. And they help me navigate like my life. And we none of us will live longer enough to recover from all the mistakes that we may make in our lives. So it's smart to learn from people who've been there and done that, right? And so I've created this system that helps me navigate this crazy world that we all live in. And I just recommend people to think about that. It's the same in business. Like, you know, this self-made thing. I've done it all myself. It's not real. It takes an army of people to get to where we want to go. And I recommend that for your personal lives. Like, just create this orbit, this network of people to help you get to where you want to go, to make your life better. Yeah.
I love that. You know, Jay, for you, really quickly, what are you still striving for as you pursue a good life?
Well, my daughter called earlier, around 4 o'clock, and she's going through some work transition stuff that she was calling for some help with. And I said, well, I'm thrilled to talk. Let me call you right back. Called her at the intermission, and she said, I'm going to be speaking in a couple minutes. She said, oh, what are you speaking about? I said, well, the title of the theme of the gathering is Healthier Men at Work. And she paused. And she said, so are you?
Oh,
Yes. And I was like, well, sometimes. And I said, well, what do you think? Do you think I am? And she said, well, you're a workaholic, so maybe sometimes. And so I'll let my daughter answer that question with brutal honesty, that what I'm still working on is finding that balance. But the last thing I'll say to that, which I hope she realizes someday, is someone said earlier about don't let your work become your identity. And I can appreciate that. I think there's a lot of truth to that, and I've had that experience. But I think there's a difference between it being your identity and your self-worth. And what I mean by that is I've been really lucky that I have found vocation. And so what others might see as workaholism, I see as joy and fulfillment and meaning and purpose and connection and community, because I get to do that in my work, which I tell people, I have not gone to work a day in my life since I left McKinsey when I was 24 years old. You know, so I got 34 years of never working, but my daughter believes I'm a workaholic and has truth to that, right? So I'd say the balance in the context of seeking purpose and the fulfillment in the work.
That's beautiful. I know we're up to the last question here before we open it up to Q&A, but with Chris and Kevin, just curious to know from your perspective, you know, Healthier Men at Work, the title, A Good Life, What Men Need. What do you want the audience and the folks today, after we all kind of branch out, go back to enjoying the weekend, go to work on Monday, go back into our day-to-day, 9 to 5, 9 to 9, right? Whatever it is, wearing so many multiple hats. What do you want them to take away from your story?
It's interesting. I'll pivot a bit off of some of the things that you said, and I truly believe this. Let's not just become our work. Let our mission and the reasons we get out the bed in the morning be bigger than just a paycheck and just doing what maybe like our bosses want us to do. I truly believe in having a purposeful life, and I would want us all to think about, whether it's our children, whether it's our employees, or people who look up to us. I want us to think about what they would think about if, when we pass. We're all going to pass, but just like legacy, and just like doing the right work. I think this is really important for me and the people that I work with is just doing work that matters. Just whether it's family stuff and just traveling and experiences. And there are a lot of people are always watching what we do. And I think we should think about that. And it drives me even when no one is watching. And so I would encourage people just like to think about that. Just making like the right decisions in life.
That was beautiful, Chris. I need pace and peace. And I believe we can create and build our own happy moments and our own happy days. Not every moment, not every day. And even though I'm in pain up here today and here today, I'm still happy. I'm happy that you're here. I'm happy that we're here. And I'm happy that I get to exist past the day 25 years ago where I by all accounts, should have died. In the waters under the Golden Gate Bridge, on the way down, I prayed to God that I would live, having instantaneous regret for my actions. When I hit the water, I immediately shattered 3 of my vertebrae into tiny little pieces, and I missed severing my spinal cord by 2 millimeters. I went down in the water 40 to 50 feet, and I basically said, God, if you let me live, I'll make it up to you. And at that moment, something began circling beneath me. I thought, you gotta be kidding me. I didn't die jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge and a shark is gonna eat me. But it was no shark at all. It was a sea lion, and it bumped me to the surface and circled beneath my shoulders, elbows, and knees until the Coast Guard boat arrived behind me. Now, my new friends, you can call that whatever you want, but that is my personal miracle, and I will always and forever believe that God saved my life that day through that sea lion and gave me this purpose to be sitting here on this stage before all of you and before all of you to share a message of hope, healing, and recovery from brain pain, and let you know that whatever you go through past today, no matter how difficult, no matter how much of a struggle, no matter how much of a strife, no matter how much pain you're in, you can and will get through it with time, energy, effort, and a great deal of hard work, because nothing good ever came without it.
Wow. That is so inspiring. It reminds me of a story, really quick, 30 seconds. Yesterday, I was at a paint shop as a new father, repainting the nursery and everything, and this 82-year-old guy was still working at the paint shop, family-owned business. And I was just like, hey, man, like, what's keeping you working? Why you keep showing up? He said, honestly, man, it's just like the joy I get from the people that come here every day. And I'm like, but like, you don't have to come to work. He's just like, man, like, as I reflect on my life, there's no one left. There's no one left, it's just me. You know, I have cats, dogs, and you know, a turtle this big that's, you know, brings me joy. But I'm like, what's the greatest lesson you learned, 82 years old, and it keeps you healthy, keeping you going? He's just like, honestly, it attests to what we talked about today. It's just like, honestly, my mom and my parents, as a little kid, told me just to always do the right thing, no matter if somebody's watching or not. So when we think about a good life, it's about like really seeing the legacy you go throughout and reflecting and say, you know what, who have I helped? Who am I looking in front of me? And I think that's the testament. So please give it out to this amazing panel for this amazing conversation. We'll open it up for a couple of questions from the audience now. Yes, we have one in the back.
I got it, Mike. Who's talking?
Thank you. This is a short comment. I walked in the door here, and I actually really quickly was like, "Do I belong here? Am I going to fit in and feel welcome?" I had to go searching for business casual clothes, and a lot of people here are professionals with a different veneer than mine. So I got off after the long subway ride, and I went to the bathroom, and I'm washing my hands, and who comes out of the stall but Kevin? And he says, "Hey, my man, I'm so glad you're here, and I hope you have a great day." And my whole heart just melted in that moment. And so this good life manifested in fellowship between men, given easily. I just want to say it's happening, it's an inspiration, and I'm grateful.
Oh.
That's beautiful. Any other questions?
I think obviously we've been talking about a good life and also in many ways a good death. And what does it mean to live in proximity to death? And I was going to ask, I think maybe give you guys a choice of which question. For you, what is a good death? Or on a totally flip side, who's someone who taught you how to love?
I'll take it. It's kind of hard to answer like what a good death is because no one really wants to die. But I would just say a old death or dying for a noble cause. But to answer the other question about who taught me how to love, it's my mom. My mom, I was a mama's boy. I grew up a mama's boy. When I was in middle school and elementary school, my mom would coach me up to write my little notes to girls in class of like, would you like date me? All the stuff. 99-cent movie theaters and stuff like that. My mom would take me, all of the stuff, and chivalrous and like opening doors. And I still continue to do this to this day. My mom is no longer like with us. But yeah. Love is super important, especially this time, this political climate and everything that's going on. It's an interesting question, love is really important in my life.
And your mom is important.
Yes, definitely my mom, yes.
All right, well, thank you so much for this incredible panel. Thank you so much to the audience. Appreciate you all.